Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to talk about biomes, the actual biomes that are found all throughout the world. Now, just to let you know, and when you look at biomes, there's a lot of biomes that are found in the same location and have the same names as other biomes because depending on the scientists of the day and who they're classifying them as, you'll hear a lot of things that are very similar. So like a taiga could be a northwestern coniferous forest, So we're just going to go straight out of what the book says. Although when we do a little bit of research, we're going to find that there's actually several names for a lot of these biomes. All right, we're going to start. So I'm sorry, this is 10-8, by the way. 10-8. So we're going to start with tropical rainforest because that's one of the coolest biomes, I think. Just because all the cool animals are there, and most of the medicine that helps keep us healthy is found there as well. Kind of cool. All right, so tropical rainforest, and if you look at the maps behind these, you'll see this is highlighting where you can find most of these. Okay, we're going to break this into three categories every time we talk about them. We're going to talk about the abiotic factors, the plants, and the animals that are typical of that particular biome. All right, so starting with the abiotic factors. So remember, non-living. Now, I know you guys go, non-living, rocks, cement, dead plant. You got to think beyond that. Abiotic, apparently I got to update my virus software. There we go. We need to think in terms bigger than just that. Okay, so abiotic factors. What can I expect when I go to a tropical rainforest? Well, it's going to be hot. Why? Because I'm in the near the equator zone, so I'm in the I'm having a brain fart now. Polar zone, the tropical zone, the tropical zone, and so it's going to be hot and it's pretty wet. That's because, like, you know how when you take a really hot shower, how the air gets all foggy and stuff. That's because warm air can hold a lot more water than cold air can, and so due to the fact that the plants are constantly breathing out water vapor, that water vapor just kind of sits in the air and makes it nice and muggy. The soil, now I know you've seen tropical rainforests and they have big gigantic plants, and so you would think that the soil would be amazing just for the fact that it can grow those giant plants, but it's actually really bad soil. All the nutrients are stored in the plant. So the only time that nutrients get put back into the soil is when one of the plants dies and decomposes. And so hard to grow stuff there. Really hard. Once it's grown, it's great and it'll stay forever, but it's really difficult to start out something there. Sorry, my eye is still bugging me. All right, what type of plants would I expect to find there? Well, big plants with big leaves. Lots of fruits because a lot of monkeys and stuff love to eat the fruits there. Ferns, because they love shady, moist areas. Vines, orchids, bromeliads, all sorts of really just nifty, cool plants that provide homes and food for lots of animals. What kind of animals you're asking? Well, one of my favorites, a sloth. I love sloths. 3-toed, 2-toed, I don't care. I love sloths. Tapirs, which are just kind of, I don't know what you call it, kind of pig-like animals. Monkeys, toucans, butterflies, ants. Now, of course, there's way more. This is just a very small sampling of what you would expect to find in a tropical rainforest. All right, what about a tropical dry forest? Well, as you can see, they kind of surround tropical rainforests. And so all the water that's going to there kind of gets sucked out of these forests. What can I expect there? Warm year-round, but not as muggy as the tropical rainforest because, gosh, my eyeball. Sorry about that. I know sometimes people touching their eyes really freaks people out, so I apologize for that. There's like something in my eye besides an eyeball. Okay, so it's warm year-round. They have wet and dry seasons. Monsoons is kind of what they call it. And so where you think dry, animals are about to die, then all of a sudden, whoosh, huge mass rains falling everywhere, and then lo and behold, there's puddles, there's rivers and ponds, and then everybody goes to the watering hole and drinks up, and they love it. Very rich soil for being dry most of the year. They actually have really good soil, so they can grow a lot of good plants. What kind of plants? Glad you asked. Tall deciduous trees. You guys remember the word deciduous? Means that, hello, kitty. Deciduous means it drops its leaves. In the winter, it grows them back, as opposed to evergreen, which stays green all year long. We have a lot of drought, whoopsie, what happened there? We have a lot of drought-tolerant plants. These are plants that are able to withstand long periods of no water, kind of like cacti, succulents, aloes, things like that. Oh, hey, look, aloes right there, succulents. So a lot of dry plants that are very squishy on the inside because they can hold water for a very long time. What do I find there? Tigers, monkeys, elephants, deer, rhinos. So this is more of the South African tropical dry forest as opposed to the South American. Not a whole lot of tigers running around Mexico, but all right, next kind, tropical savanna. Savanna typically means grassland, lots of grasses. So tropical just means it's found in the tropical zone. What do I expect when I go there? It's pretty warm. I got my seasonal rainfall, dry season, wet season. Soil's very compact, and there's a lot of fires that go through there, usually due to lightning strikes because not a lot of people live there. Not like here where we get fires and it's usually because someone decided to throw a cigarette out the car. But the fires there, it's actually good. You need these fires because there's a lot of plants that have seeds that are stuck in their casing that only will open if thrown into a fire. And so the heat causes them to pop open, and then they can actually now turn into a new plant. And so these fires are actually required for this type of biome to survive. What do we find there? Tall grasses, drought-tolerant, and fire-resistant trees and shrubs. So, like, here's the plant above ground. Well, most of the good stuff is underground in the roots. So if a fire wipes out all this, the plant's not going to die because all the living stuff's underneath. It'll just pop right back up again. Kind of cool. And the animals that we're going to find there, lions, cheetahs, elephants, giraffes, zebras, eagles, termites. Now, we're not talking termites like in your house. We're talking the ones that build these like 15-foot tall mud mounds kind of termites. Pretty awesome. Okay, next one, desert. My favorite. Absolute favorite. Now, mainly because I just like this desert there. I'm sure all the other deserts are cool, but I like that desert the best. So, not a whole lot of rain. We're kind of deserty in a way where we live here because there's not a lot of rain. Variable temperatures. It can get freezing cold in the middle of winter in the desert, and it could get blazing hot in the middle of summer. The soil is rich in minerals, which is great, but not very rich in organic material. So plants don't grow so well there. So what do we get? A lot of cactus. Cacti is just a plural. Instead of cactuses, it's cacti. And there's a lovely thing called creosote. Creosote is a very yummy smelling plant, specifically out in our deserts here, but you can find them all around here. The animals that we're going to find, stuff you would expect to find in our backyard. Mountain lions, foxes, bobcats, deer, bats, owls, hawks, snakes, lizards. You know, we get a lot of lizards, we get snakes. You can see hawks flying pretty much anywhere. The owls are out there. The bigger ones, you'd probably have to go more like in Carbon Canyon or something like that to see them. 241 Toll Road usually has one or two dead mountain lions, foxes, bobcats, just because they try to cross from one area to another and die. Aw, sad. All right, temperate grassland as opposed to tropical grassland. Very hot summers, very cold. Ooh, I got the highlighter on. Whoopsie. Very cold winters. Not a whole lot of rain, but the soil, pretty good. Can grow lots of good stuff, specifically grasses and herbs. So we have a lot of herbivores living in this area. Coyotes, remember, they're omnivores. Badgers, they like little small bugs. So there's always bugs on grasses and herbs. Wolves, rabbits, hawks, snakes, ants, grasshoppers. So kind of a wide variety of animals found in temperate grassland. If you look in terms of the United States, we can say that that's kind of the Midwest. Right here, right smack in the middle. Then we have temperate woodland and shrubland. And that is actually referred to as chaparral. Chaparral. That's an R. Chaparral. This is us. This is there, us. We have hot, dry summers. Yep. Cool, moist winters. Yep. Thin, nutrient-poor soil. Yep. Plants. A lot of woody, evergreen shrubs and fragrant, oily herbs. We have lots of sages. Purple sage, white sage, deer sage. All just, they smell so good. And a lot of, when it rains, we get lots of really cool plants that flower for like 2 or 3 weeks. Just flowers everywhere. Absolutely gorgeous. What do we find again? Stuff you would expect to accidentally find in your backyard. Coyotes, foxes, bobcats, mountain lions, deer, rabbits, quail, snakes, lizards, lots of insects, all sorts of cool stuff. So temperate woodland, shrubland, otherwise known as chaparral, that is our biome. It's very tiny. It's kind of hard to tell, but there's us right there. And then, actually, I don't think this map is the best one. It's like a little bit over here. There's a little bit over there. It's only in 5 locations, actually, all around. All right, next one, temperate forest. Ah, see, that's what the map was, temperate forest. Cold to moderate winters, although if you ask anybody living back east right now, moderate winter, they're like, yeah, right, whatever. Warm summers, year-round rain, fertile soil. Doesn't mean it rains every day. It just means that it's never dry there, we'll say. The plants that you're going to find there, deciduous trees, which is something we don't get to enjoy over here. We're pretty much evergreen. If they are deciduous, they go from green to brown and dead, and then back to green again. One time I visited Wisconsin, and we went to a zoo, and the relatives we were with were showing us all the animals, but the whole time we're walking around like this, because being from California, we don't see that beautiful color change of the greens going to the reds, yellows, oranges, and all those colors. So instead of looking at the animals, we're just walking around looking at all the trees going, oh my God, that's so cool. And they're like, dude, we see this every year. It's not that exciting. But if you live in California, pretty stinking exciting. So we have deciduous trees, conifers, flowering shrubs, mosses, ferns, all sorts of neat plants. The animals you see there, very cool animals. Deer, bobcats, bears, squirrels, raccoons, even wild turkeys. I got a story about wild turkeys. If anybody watches this and actually listens to this, remind me to tell you about the wild turkey story next day in class. All right, northwest coniferous forest. This one is so specific, it is only found right there in the whole entire world. So Alaska, parts of Canada, and like Washington, and what's that, Oregon right there. So northwestern coniferous, abiotic, mild temperatures, lots of rain from fall to spring. If you know anything about Washington and Oregon, it just rains all the time. Pretty cool dry summers. They don't get 60 degrees is shorts weather for them. They're outside tanning because that's hot for them. Plants, big green evergreens, fir, spruce, hemlock, redwood. If you want to see big trees, big beautiful trees, this is where you go. Animals, bears, elks, deer, beavers, owls, bobcats, weasels, even should be lynxes in there. A lynx, which is like a big bobcat. Then we've got the boreal forest, otherwise known as taiga. Right there, taiga. No, not the rapper. Taiga, the biome. Abiotic factors, long cold winters, and a dog. Short mild summers, average rain, not too much, not a whole lot. Poor soil, again, coniferous forest. So coniferous just means cone bearing. So anything that makes a pine cone is a coniferous forest. Deciduous trees, trees that drop their leaves, berry-bearing trees. I just think that's fun to say, berry-bearing. And so we've got these trees that make lots of fruits to feed all these guys, lynxes, wolves, weasels, moose, beavers. Lots of migratory birds stop here when it's either too cold or too hot for them. Then we got the tundra, not the truck. The tundra, really, really cold. Northern Alaska, northern Canada, Greenland, northern parts of Asia. Strong winds, very little rain because it's all frozen. It doesn't rain. It's snow and more snow. Short, wet summers. So when things kind of melt, so it's above 32 degrees, so they're like, woohoo, it's summer for like 10 days. Long, dark, cold winters, just because they're so far north that the sun sometimes doesn't even come up over the horizon. Very poor soil, just because it's frozen all the time. It's not good. There's something called permafrost, which means permanently frozen soil, and we find that up here in the tundra. Plants are very tiny. Mosses, lichens, sedges, short grasses, just because they don't have enough nutrients to grow. They can only get like this big and that's it. Animals, though, eat those little tiny plants. Caribou, owls eat the little birds that are stopping through on their migration path. Little mice and rats that are eating all these guys here. So not a whole lot of animal variety there. Now, mountain ranges, I know it's not their own biome, But mountain ranges can be found in any one of the biomes, and they have their own very specific set of conditions. Because of the fact that they go vertical, as well as longitudinally away from the equator, they have very similar to biomes in terms of how far you are from the equator in terms of elevation. Meaning, if you're at sea level, that's kind of like you're at the equator. And the farther up you go the mountain, it's like you're getting closer and closer to the polar zone. So if I'm halfway in the middle, see down here, very deserty. So that's like tropical desert, stuff like that. The further up you go the mountain, hey look, now it's kind of like we're in North America. Woodlands, oh, hey, now we're in Canada. Oh, hey, look, now we're in Alaska. And so the verticalness of the mountain directly corresponds with the type of biome and its latitude away from the equator. And then over here, same kind of thing. What do we see in desert shrub? Mesquites, cactus, creosote. What do we see in grasslands? Sages, pinyon pines, junipers, ponderosa pines. What do we see in woodlands? Aspen, Douglas fir. What do we see in Arctic and alpine? Well, remember, there's no trees in the furthest northern areas. So there comes a spot on a mountain where the trees just stop. It's like 1 foot you're in trees, the next foot no more trees. That's because that's the same as in the Arctic zone, there are no trees. And so mountains are their own special little thing. We call this zonation right there, zonation. And it just means that with mountain ranges, the conditions will not fit the zone they're in. So like if this mountain is in the middle of the desert, the top is not going to also be desert. It's going to be the equivalent of if you were at the top of the world as opposed to the top of a mountain. All right, I do believe, let me check something. Oh, polar ice caps. They're kind of their own little biome. That's just, they're not on land. It's just frozen ice covering water, sometimes land. And these polar ice caps, this is where you find crazy things. Polar bears, but they spend a lot of their time out in the ocean. Seals, a lot of little bugs, usually on the polar bears and on the seals. Mites, penguins, and some marine mammals. But they have the ability to migrate. So they're not permanently stuck here, but they can migrate down here, wherever they need to go. All right, yeah, that's it for today. So, yeah, I figure 17 minutes, sorry about that, but a lot of cool stories, right? Okay. I will talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.